The first time Vera Castellano saw the blood on her apartment door, she knew her old life was over. It wasn't much, just a smear, rust-red and deliberate, shaped almost like a handprint but too perfect to be accidental. Someone had dipped their fingers in something and painted a warning. She stood in the dim hallway of her Brooklyn walk-up, grocery bag cutting into her palm, and felt the floor tilt beneath her sneakers. The building smelled like garlic and radiator heat, familiar and safe until 30 seconds ago. Now every shadow held teeth. She should have called the police. That's what normal people did when they found blood on their door at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night. But Vera wasn't normal people anymore. Hadn't been since she'd witnessed the shooting outside the bodega 3 weeks ago. Since she'd given her statement to the detectives. Since the man in the expensive suit had watched her from across the street the next morning, not even pretending to hide. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her stomach clenched. "You should have stayed quiet," the text read. "Now we know where you sleep." Vera's hands shook as she backed away from her door. The hallway stretched longer than it should, the exit sign at the far end suddenly a mile away. She turned and ran, grocery bag forgotten, keys jangling in her fist like a pathetic weapon. Down 4 flights of stairs, her breath coming in sharp gasps that burned her throat. Out into the November cold without a jacket. She didn't stop until she reached the bodega on the corner, the same one where she'd seen the kid get shot, where his blood had pooled between the sidewalk cracks while she'd pressed her hands against the wound and screamed for someone to call 911. The owner, Mr. Chen, looked up from his newspaper. "You okay, Vera? I need to use your phone." Her voice came out thin. "There's something at my apartment." But even as she said it, she knew the police couldn't help her. Not really. The detectives had promised protection, but that was before the first witness had disappeared. Before the second one had turned up in the East River with concrete blocks tied to his ankles. The Marchetti family didn't leave loose ends, and Vera Castellano, 26-year-old paralegal with law school debt and a studio apartment she could barely afford, had just become the loosest end of all. Mr. Chen handed her his cell phone, but before she could dial, the bell above the door chimed. 2 men walked in. Expensive suits, dead eyes. One of them smiled at her, and it was the kind of smile that made her bones go cold. "Vera Castellano," the taller one had a scar through his left eyebrow. "We've been looking for you." She dropped the phone. It clattered against the linoleum, and the sound seemed to echo forever. Mr. Chen stepped back, hands raised, and she hated herself for bringing danger to his door. The shorter man, built like a brick wall, with hands that could palm a basketball, moved to block the exit. "We just want to talk," scarred eyebrow said. His voice was reasonable, almost kind. That made it worse. "Our employer has a proposition." "I don't want anything from the Marchettis." Vera's voice cracked. She grabbed a bottle of wine from the nearest shelf, held it by the neck like a club. Pathetic. They probably found it amusing. "Not the Marchettis." The man tilted his head. "Someone else. Someone who can actually keep you alive." A black Mercedes pulled up outside, idling at the curb. Through the bodega window, Vera could see another figure in the back seat, face obscured by shadow. Her heart hammered against her ribs so hard she thought they might crack. "Get in the car, Miss Castellano," scarred eyebrow said. "Or stay here and wait for the Marchettis to send their cleanup crew. Your choice. But you've got about 5 minutes before they arrive, and I promise you our way is better." Vera looked at Mr. Chen. He gave a tiny nod, his face pale. He'd lived in this neighborhood 40 years. He knew how these things went. She dropped the wine bottle. It didn't break, just rolled under the shelf in a slow arc. Then she walked out into the cold night air and climbed into the Mercedes, because sometimes survival meant choosing the devil you didn't know over the one actively trying to kill you. The door closed behind her with a solid, expensive thunk. The interior smelled like leather and cedar and something darker, something that reminded her of the emergency room where they'd taken the kid from the bodega. He'd died before they'd even gotten him inside. She'd watched the light go out of his eyes while she'd waited to give her statement. The man in the back seat didn't look at her right away. He was studying something on his phone, face illuminated by blue light. Late 30s, maybe 40, with the kind of bone structure that belonged on a movie screen. Dark hair swept back, a jaw that could cut glass. and when he finally glanced up, eyes so dark they were almost black. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her rent, and on his left hand, a gold signet ring caught the streetlight as they pulled away from the curb. "Miss Castellano." His voice was smooth, controlled. "My name is Dominic Andretti. I apologize for the dramatic pickup, but subtlety seems to be off the table at this point." "Andretti." Vera's throat felt like sandpaper. "You're a businessman, yes." He pocketed his phone. "And currently the only reason you're still breathing. The Marchettis put a contract out on you 6 hours ago, $50,000. By morning, every street soldier in Brooklyn will be looking for you." The car turned onto the expressway. The city lights blurred past the window. Vera pressed her palms against her thighs to stop them from shaking. "Why do you care?" "Because you saw something 3 weeks ago that I need you to testify about. Not to the police. They've already proven they can't protect you. To the FBI." Dominic Andretti leaned forward slightly, and she caught the scent of expensive cologne, something with notes of bergamot and wood smoke. "There's a federal task force building a RICO case against the Marchetti family. Your testimony could be the cornerstone, but you're no good to anyone dead." "So you're what, one of the good guys?" Vera heard the hysteria creeping into her voice. "Another mob boss with a conscience?" "No." His expression didn't change. "I'm someone who wants the Marchettis destroyed, and you're a tool that can help me do it. Don't mistake this for altruism, Miss Castellano. This is business. But unlike them, I keep my people alive." The car pulled into an underground garage beneath a high-rise in Manhattan. Everything was concrete and shadow, the kind of place where screams wouldn't carry. Vera's muscles tensed. Maybe she'd made the wrong choice. Maybe she was about to find out what the East River felt like in November. But Dominic Andretti just opened his door and gestured for her to follow. "3rd floor. I have a secure apartment. You'll stay there until the FBI is ready to move." "And then what?" He paused, one hand on the elevator button. In the harsh fluorescent light, she could see the faint scar along his temple, almost hidden by his hairline. "Then you disappear. New identity, new city, new life. The government's very good at that." "I don't want a new life." The words came out before she could stop them. "I want my old one back." For the first time, something like sympathy flickered across his face. "That's not how this works. You know too much now. You'll never be Vera Castellano again." The elevator doors opened. Vera stepped inside, and they rose in silence. She watched the numbers climb, 1, 2, 3, and wondered which floor you had to reach before you stopped being yourself entirely. The apartment was a penthouse, all floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist furniture. The kind of place she'd seen in magazines but never imagined standing inside. New York glittered below them, a carpet of lights stretching to the horizon. It was beautiful and alien and completely wrong. "Kitchen's stocked," Dominic said, shrugging off his suit jacket. Beneath it, he wore a shoulder holster, the gun black and utilitarian against his white shirt. "Bedrooms through there. Bathrooms attached. Don't leave this apartment. Don't go near the windows. Don't call anyone." "How long?" 3 days, maybe 4. The FBI needs to coordinate with the U.S. Attorney's office, get the protective custody paperwork in order. He hung his jacket on a chair. "In the meantime, you're a guest here. My men are downstairs and the building's security is airtight. You're safe." Vera almost laughed. "Safe, right. Because I'm locked in a penthouse with a stranger who just kidnapped me." "I didn't kidnap you, I rescued you." Dominic's voice went cold. "There's a difference." "Is there?" He turned to face her fully, and she saw it then, the calculation behind his eyes, the careful measurement of how much truth to give her. "The Marchettis killed my brother 4 years ago. They made it look like a robbery, but I know better. I've spent every day since then building a case that will burn their entire operation to the ground. You're the first witness who can put Anthony Marchetti at a murder scene, and I will do whatever it takes to keep you alive long enough to testify. So no, Miss Castellano, this isn't kidnapping. This is war, and you just became my most valuable asset." The words hung in the air between them. Vera sank onto the edge of the leather couch, suddenly exhausted. She'd gotten up this morning and gone to work at the law firm, filed briefs, eaten a sad desk salad, complained to her coworker about her student loans. Normal things, human things. Now she was a valuable asset in someone else's war. "I didn't ask for any of this," she whispered. "No one ever does." Dominic moved to the window, hands in his pockets, shoulders tense beneath his shirt. "But you did the right thing when you tried to save that kid. And you did the right thing when you talked to the police. Most people would have walked away. The kid still died. Yes, but you tried." Something in his voice made her look up. He was staring out at the city, his reflection ghosted in the glass, and for a moment he looked almost human, almost vulnerable. Then he turned, and the mask was back. "Get some sleep, Miss Castellano. Tomorrow we start preparing your testimony." He left her there, disappearing into what she assumed was another bedroom. Vera sat on the couch and stared at her hands. They were shaking again, and she couldn't make them stop. Somewhere out there, men with guns were looking for her. Somewhere out there, her normal life was dissolving like sugar in water. She pulled out her phone. They hadn't taken it from her, which seemed like an oversight, and scrolled through her contacts. Mom, Dad, her sister Liz, her best friend from college, Ray. She couldn't call any of them. Couldn't put them in danger. Couldn't even send a text to say she was okay because she wasn't okay and she might never be okay again. A notification popped up. Instagram. Someone had tagged her in a photo from 3 weeks ago, the law firm's Halloween party. She was dressed as Ruth Bader Ginsburg, gavel in hand, grinning at the camera next to Ray, who'd come as a sexy cat because Ray was constitutionally incapable of picking any other costume. They looked so happy, so normal, so impossibly far away. Vera deleted the app, then deleted her Facebook, her Twitter, everything. If they could find her apartment, they could find her social media. Could find everyone she'd ever loved. The bedroom Dominic had indicated was enormous, decorated in shades of gray and cream. The bed looked like something from a hotel, all crisp white linens and too many pillows. She collapsed onto it fully clothed and closed her eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. Every sound made her flinch, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant wail of a siren, the elevator dinging somewhere down the hall. She must have dozed eventually, because she woke to sunlight streaming through the curtains and the smell of coffee. Her body ached from sleeping in yesterday's clothes, and her mouth tasted like copper. For one blessed second, she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back, and she wanted to pull the covers over her head and disappear. But she could hear voices in the main room. Low, urgent. She crept to the door and cracked it open. Dominic stood by the kitchen island, talking to a woman. She was tall, mid-30s, with sleek black hair pulled into a bun and a tailored pantsuit that screamed money. But it was her face that caught Vera's attention, sharp cheekbones, dark eyes, and an expression of pure disdain. "You brought her here," the woman was saying. "To your private apartment. Dominic, are you insane?" "I didn't have a choice, Sofia." His voice was tight. "The Marchettis moved faster than I anticipated. So you put her in the one place that can be traced directly back to you." Sofia crossed her arms. "If this goes sideways, if they find out you're harboring a witness." "They won't. You don't know that." Sofia's voice dropped, but Vera could still hear the fury in it. "You're risking everything we've built, everything Papa built, for some paralegal who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. She's not just some paralegal, she's the key to your revenge fantasy." Sofia cut him off. "This isn't about justice, Dom. This is about you trying to fix what happened to Marco, and you can't. He's dead, and no amount of testimony is going to bring him back." Silence. Vera held her breath, pressed against the door frame. When Dominic spoke again, his voice was dangerously quiet. "Don't say his name like that. Don't pretend you understand what I'm trying to do here. I understand perfectly. You're obsessed, and it's going to get us all killed." Sofia grabbed her purse from the counter. "I'm going to the legitimate businesses today, the restaurants, the construction sites. You know, the parts of our operation that actually make money and don't involve playing hero to strangers. When this blows up in your face, don't come crying to me." She swept toward the door, heels clicking against the hardwood. Then she stopped, turned back. "And Dominic, get rid of her before she ruins everything." The door slammed. Vera stumbled back from her hiding spot, heart racing. Sofia, his sister obviously, and she hated Vera on sight. Dominic appeared in the bedroom doorway a moment later. If he knew she'd been listening, he didn't show it. There's coffee in the kitchen. The FBI liaison will be here in 2 hours to start your prep. Your sister doesn't want me here. It wasn't a question. My sister doesn't understand the bigger picture. He turned away. But her opinion doesn't matter. You're staying until this is done. Vera followed him into the main room. The apartment looked different in daylight, less threatening, more sterile. She said you're risking everything. What did she mean? Dominic poured 2 cups of coffee, handed her one. His fingers brushed hers, and she noticed he had small scars across his knuckles. Old injuries, long healed. The Andretti family operates in a gray area. We have legitimate businesses, real estate, restaurants, import-export, but we also have, let's call them traditional interests. The Marchettis are pure criminal enterprise. We're not. That's a pretty distinction. It's the only distinction that matters. He took a sip of his coffee. If the FBI finds out I'm personally housing a witness, it could complicate things. They might decide to investigate me instead of focusing on the Marchettis. Sofia's worried about exposure. And you're not? I'm worried about keeping you alive long enough to put Anthony Marchetti in a federal prison for the rest of his life. He set down his cup. Everything else is secondary. The FBI liaison arrived at 11. Her name was Agent Sarah Chen, and she looked like she hadn't slept in 3 days. She set up a laptop on the dining table and pulled out a stack of photographs, each one sealed in a plastic evidence bag. "Miss Castellano," she said, her voice clipped and professional. "I need you to walk me through the night of October 17th, minute by minute. Don't leave anything out, no matter how small it seems." Vera sat down. Dominic leaned against the window, arms crossed, watching. She took a breath and started talking. "I was walking home from work. It was around 7:30, maybe 7:45. I stopped at Mr. Chen's bodega to grab milk and some bread. When I came out, there were 3 men on the sidewalk. 2 of them I didn't recognize, but the third," she pointed to one of the photos. "That's Anthony Marchetti. I'd seen his picture in the news." "You're sure it was him?" "Positive. He was wearing a black coat, cashmere or something expensive, and he had this ring on his right hand, really distinctive. Gold with a red stone, maybe a ruby." Vera closed her eyes, pulling up the memory. "They were arguing about money. One of the other men kept saying, 'You said 2 weeks,' and Marchetti kept telling him to shut up. Then the kid came around the corner." Her hands started shaking again. Agent Chen pushed a bottle of water across the table. "The kid couldn't have been more than 17. He saw Marchetti and tried to run, but one of the other men grabbed him. Marchetti said, 'You thought you could steal from me.' The kid was crying, saying it was a mistake, he'd pay it back. Marchetti pulled out a gun." Her voice broke. Dominic shifted by the window. She could feel him watching her. "He shot him twice, chest and stomach. The kid collapsed right there on the sidewalk and Marchetti just walked away. Like it was nothing, like he'd just taken out the trash." Vera wiped her eyes. "I ran over. I tried to stop the bleeding. I called 911, but there was so much blood and he kept saying, 'Tell my mom, and then he just stopped breathing." Agent Chen made notes on her laptop. "And you're willing to testify to all of this in federal court. You understand what that means. Cross-examination, media attention, your face on the news." "I understand. The Marchettis have a long reach, Miss Castellano. Even with witness protection." "I said I understand." Vera met her eyes. "That kid died in my arms. If I don't testify, it was for nothing. So yes, I'll do it, whatever it takes." Agent Chen nodded slowly. "All right. We'll arrange for you to be moved to a secure federal facility tomorrow night. In the meantime, stay here, stay quiet, and don't contact anyone from your old life. As far as the world is concerned, Vera Castellano has disappeared." After she left, Vera stood at the window and stared out at the city. Dominic came up beside her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "You didn't have to do this," he said quietly. "You could have run, left the city, changed your name on your own. They'd still find me, and the kid would still be dead for nothing. He's dead either way. But maybe the next kid isn't." She glanced at him. "That's what you're hoping for, right? That if you take down the Marchettis, fewer people die?" Dominic's jaw tightened. "Something like that. Your brother, Marco, what happened to him?" For a long moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "He was engaged to a girl from the neighborhood. Sweet kid, worked at her father's bakery. The Marchettis wanted the bakery's location for a gambling operation. When her father refused to sell, they decided to send a message. They killed Marco in broad daylight, right outside the bakery, and made it look like a mugging. The police never even investigated properly. I'm sorry. Don't be. Just make sure Anthony Marchetti goes to prison. He turned away from the window. I'm going to check in with my security team. Don't answer the door for anyone. He left, and Vera was alone again. She explored the apartment, more to pass the time than anything else. The second bedroom was clearly Dominic's. King-size bed, dark furniture, clothes hanging in the closet. She shouldn't have gone in there, but curiosity pulled her forward. On the nightstand, she found a photograph in a simple silver frame. Two men, arms slung around each other's shoulders, grinning at the camera. One of them was Dominic, maybe 10 years younger, his expression open and unguarded. The other must have been Marco, same dark eyes, same bone structure, but softer somehow. Happier. Vera set the photo down carefully and backed out of the room. She felt like she'd seen something private, something that explained the cold fury in Dominic's eyes when he talked about the Marchettis. The rest of the day passed in a haze of anxiety. She tried to read a book from the shelf, some thriller about international espionage, but couldn't focus. She made a sandwich she didn't eat. She took a shower in the enormous bathroom and put on the clean clothes someone had left for her, a t-shirt and sweatpants that smelled like expensive laundry detergent. Dominic returned at dusk. He looked tired, lines etched around his eyes. He'd rolled up his shirt sleeves, and she could see more scars on his forearms, thin white lines that looked like knife wounds. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Fine. Just checking the perimeter, making sure no one's sniffing around." He grabbed a beer from the fridge. "You should eat something. I'm ordering dinner. What do you like?" "I'm not really hungry." "You need to eat anyway. Thai. Italian. Whatever you want is fine." He ordered Thai, and they ate in near silence at the dining table. The food was good, probably from some place she could never afford, but it tasted like cardboard in her mouth. Every few minutes she'd glance at the door, expecting it to burst open, expecting men with guns. "They're not coming," Dominic said, reading her mind. "This building is a fortress. I own the security company, and my men are on every entrance. You're safe here. You keep saying that word, safe, but your sister said I'm going to ruin everything." His expression darkened. "Sofia's paranoid, she always has been. Maybe she has a reason to be." Vera pushed rice around on her plate. "If the FBI finds out about this, don't you get in trouble too. I'll handle Sofia and the FBI." He finished his beer. "Your job is to stay alive and testify. That's it." But that night, lying in the too-big bed in the too-quiet apartment, Vera couldn't shake the feeling that she'd made a terrible mistake. Not about testifying, that was the right thing, the only thing, but about trusting Dominic Andretti. Because men like him didn't do anything out of the goodness of their hearts. They always had an angle, always wanted something more than they admitted. And whatever Dominic wanted, Vera was pretty sure it was going to cost her more than she could afford to pay. She woke to the sound of breaking glass. For one disoriented second, she thought she was back in her Brooklyn apartment, thought maybe she'd dreamed the whole thing. Then adrenaline slammed through her system, and she was on her feet, heart hammering. Another crash. Shouting. A gunshot, muffled but unmistakable. Vera ran to the bedroom door, cracked it open. The main room was dark, but she could see shapes moving by the windows. 3, maybe 4 men. One of them had a gun, sweeping the room methodically, looking for her. She pressed her back against the wall, trying not to breathe. Where was Dominic? Had they already killed him? Was she about to die in this sterile apartment, just another casualty in someone else's war? "Check the bedrooms," one of the men said. His voice was rough, Brooklyn accent thick. "Boss wants proof she's dead." Footsteps coming closer. Vera looked around desperately. The window didn't open, safety feature probably to keep people from jumping from the 30th floor. The bathroom had no exterior door. She was trapped. The bedroom door swung open. A man filled the doorway, gun in hand, and Vera grabbed the only weapon she could reach, the silver picture frame from Dominic's nightstand. She swung it as hard as she could, caught the man across the temple. He staggered, more surprised than hurt, and she didn't wait. She bolted past him, out into the main room. Someone grabbed her from behind, arms like steel, yanking her off her feet. She screamed and drove her elbow back, felt it connect with something soft. A grunt of pain, and the grip loosened. She twisted free and ran for the door. Then Dominic was there. He came out of nowhere, moving like violence given form. A kick to the first man's knee, and the bone cracked audibly. An elbow to another man's throat. The gun clattered to the floor, and Dominic scooped it up, fired twice. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. 2 men down. The third, the one Vera had hit with the picture frame, raised his gun. Dominic shoved her aside and tackled him. They went down in a tangle of limbs, and Vera watched in horror as they fought for control of the weapon. Dominic was bigger, stronger, but the other man was desperate. The gun went off. Blood sprayed across the hardwood floor. For one terrible moment, Vera thought Dominic had been hit. Then the other man went limp, and Dominic rolled off him, chest heaving. "Are you hurt?" He was on his feet instantly, checking her over with rough efficiency. "Did they touch you?" "I'm fine." "I'm Jesus Christ, Dominic, what just happened?" "They found us." He grabbed his phone, started barking orders into it. "I need a cleanup crew at the penthouse now, 3 down. And get Sofia on the line, someone leaked our location." Vera's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the floor, staring at the bodies. There was so much blood, more than she'd thought possible. It soaked into the expensive rug, dark and spreading. Dominic knelt beside her. "Hey, look at me." When she didn't respond, he cupped her face, forced her to meet his eyes. "You're in shock. That's normal. But I need you to hold it together for a little longer, okay? My men are coming, and we need to get you somewhere safer." "Safer?" She laughed, and it came out high and broken. "You said this place was a fortress. You said I was safe." His jaw clenched. "Someone told them where to find you, someone on my side." He stood, still holding the gun. "Get dressed. We're leaving in 5 minutes." Sofia arrived before they could go. She swept through the door, took in the bodies, the blood, and turned to Dominic with fury in her eyes. "I told you," she hissed. "I told you this was going to blow up. Now we have 3 dead Marchetti soldiers in your apartment, and you think that's not going to have consequences. Right now, I'm more concerned about the leak." Dominic's voice was ice. "How did they find this location, Sofia? Only 5 people knew she was here. You, me, Chen, and 2 of my lieutenants. Don't you dare accuse me of—" "I'm not accusing, I'm asking." But his eyes said differently. Sofia's face went white. "You actually think I would sell out a witness? Risk everything we've built because I don't like some girl you decided to play hero for? You made your feelings about her pretty clear yesterday." "Yes, because I thought it was a bad idea. Not because I wanted her dead." Sofia stepped closer. "I'm your sister, Dominic, your blood, and you're questioning my loyalty over some stranger." Vera watched them face off, saw the years of history and resentment coiled between them. Then Dominic looked away first. "Get out of here, Sofia. Go make sure our legitimate businesses aren't compromised. I'll handle the cleanup." "Gladly." But as she passed Vera, she leaned in close. "You should have stayed in Brooklyn," she whispered. "You have no idea what you've done." Then she was gone, and Vera was left with Dominic and 3 corpses and the certain knowledge that nothing was ever going to be safe again. They moved to a brownstone in Park Slope an hour later. It belonged to one of Dominic's shell companies, he explained, and only his most trusted lieutenant knew about it. The man in question, a broad-shouldered guy named Tony with kind eyes and a Brooklyn accent, stood guard outside while Dominic swept the interior for bugs. Vera sat on the couch and tried not to think about the way blood looked on expensive hardwood. "Clear," Dominic said finally. He holstered his gun and sat down across from her. "I'm sorry, this shouldn't have happened." "But it did." Her voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. "They almost killed me." "They would have if you hadn't." She stopped. "Thank you. Don't thank me, this is my fault. I should have been more careful. Your sister thinks I'm going to destroy everything." Vera met his eyes. "Is she right?" Dominic was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Sofia built a wall between us and the rest of the criminal world. She legitimized the family business, turned us into respectable citizens with a few gray area operations on the side." She's terrified that getting involved with the FBI, even as witnesses against the Marchettis, will tear that wall down. And she might be right. Then why are you doing this? Because some things matter more than business. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Marco was the good one, the one who was going to take us fully legitimate. He had plans, political connections, charity foundations, the whole thing. Sofia and I were supposed to follow his lead. And then the Marchettis killed him, and suddenly I was in charge, and Sofia was terrified I'd burn everything down chasing revenge. Are you? Burning everything down? Probably. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. But Marco deserves justice, and so does that kid you tried to save, and every other person the Marchettis have killed. So yeah, maybe I'm destroying the empire my father built, but at least I'll be able to sleep at night. Vera believed him, which was maybe the most dangerous thing of all, that she was starting to trust this man who lived in the shadows, who killed people in his own apartment and cleaned it up like spilled wine. Agent Chen arrived the next morning. She looked furious. What the hell happened? She slammed her laptop down on the kitchen table. I put you in a secure location, and 12 hours later there's a shootout. Someone leaked the address. Dominic's voice was calm, but Vera could see the tension in his shoulders. I'm handling it internally. You're handling it? Andretti, you've got 3 bodies at your penthouse and a witness who's now even more traumatized. This is exactly the kind of thing that makes prosecutors nervous. The prosecutor should be nervous about his own house, Dominic said. Because if there's a leak in my organization, there's probably one in yours too. Chen's jaw tightened. I ran background on everyone who knew about Miss Castellano's location. Everyone's clean. Then how did they find her? Silence. Chen and Dominic stared at each other, and Vera could see them both running calculations, trying to find the weak point in their security. I need to move her to federal custody, Chen said finally. Today. No, Dominic's voice was flat. She's safer with me. With all due respect, the evidence suggests otherwise. The evidence suggests I'm the only thing standing between her and a bullet. He crossed his arms. She stays with me until we figure out where the leak is. After that, you can have her. That's not your call to make. Actually, it is. Dominic pulled out his phone, showed Chen something on the screen. I've been documenting the Marchetti's operation for 4 years. I have names, dates, financial records, photographs. Everything the FBI needs to build a comprehensive RICO case. You want that information, you play by my rules. Chen's face went red. You're blackmailing me. I'm negotiating, there's a difference. He pocketed the phone. Miss Castellano stays with me for 48 hours. You use that time to sweep your operation, find your leak. After that, we reconvene and discuss next steps. Deal? Chen looked like she wanted to argue. Then she looked at Vera. Is this what you want? Staying with him? Vera thought about the penthouse, the blood, the way Dominic had put himself between her and the gunmen without hesitation. She thought about Sofia's whispered warning. She thought about the kid dying on the sidewalk, his blood warm on her hands. I trust him, she said, and meant it. Chen left, still angry. Tony brought them lunch, sandwiches from a deli down the street, and stood watch while they ate. Dominic made phone calls in the next room, his voice too low for Vera to hear. She picked at her sandwich and watched the street through the window, counting cars, looking for threats. When Dominic returned, he looked older somehow. Tired. I think I know who leaked your location, he said. One of my lieutenants, guy named Carlo. He's been acting strange lately. Nervous. I had Tony pull his phone records. He's been getting calls from a burner number registered in New Jersey. Marchetti territory. So what do? I talk to him, see if he confesses. Dominic checked his gun, reloaded the magazine. If he doesn't, I make him. You mean torture. I mean get answers. He looked at her. This is the part where you tell me I'm a monster and that you want nothing to do with me. But Vera didn't say that. Instead, what happens if he confesses? Then he dies. Traitors don't get second chances, not in my world. She should have been horrified. Should have demanded he call the police, let the system handle it. But the system had failed her. The system had gotten that kid killed and almost gotten her killed too. So instead, she just nodded. Be careful, she said. Something flickered in his eyes, surprise, maybe, or gratitude. I will. Tony stays with you. Don't open the door for anyone." He left, and Vera was alone with Tony and her thoughts. The afternoon stretched endlessly. She tried to watch TV, but every news channel was running stories about the Marchetti trial, about the missing witness, about the 3 bodies found in a Manhattan penthouse. Her face wasn't on the screen yet, but it was only a matter of time. Tony made coffee and told her stories about growing up in Brooklyn, about his grandmother who'd immigrated from Sicily and never learned to speak English properly. He had an easy manner, a way of talking that made her feel almost normal. Almost like this was just a conversation between friends and not a hostage situation with better hospitality. "How long have you worked for Dominic?" she asked. 15 years, give or take, since we were kids, really. He and Marco took me in when my old man got sent upstate." Tony stirred sugar into his coffee. "Dom's a good boss, fair. Doesn't ask you to do anything he wouldn't do himself. Is that why you're loyal to him?" "That, and he saved my life twice. Once from a rival crew, once from my own stupidity." He grinned. "Guys got a thing about protecting people. Sometimes it's a weakness, but mostly it's why we'd all take a bullet for him." Vera thought about that, about Dominic throwing himself into a fight to save her, about the photograph on his nightstand, the brother he'd lost. "What was Marco like?" she asked. Tony's expression softened. "Marco was the heart of the family. Dom's the brain, Sofia's the spine, but Marco was the heart. He made you believe things could be different, you know, like we didn't have to be what our fathers were. When he died, something broke in Dom. He's been trying to fix it ever since. By destroying the Marchettis. By making sure Marco didn't die for nothing." Tony set down his cup. "You remind me of him a little. That kid Marco tried to save. You both have that same stupid bravery, jumping in when anyone else would walk away." Before Vera could respond, her phone buzzed. She'd forgotten she still had it, that no one had confiscated it. The notification made her stomach drop. It was an email. From her sister, Liz. "Where are you? Mom's freaking out. You haven't answered your phone in 2 days. If you're in trouble, please tell me." Vera's hands shook. She couldn't respond, couldn't tell Liz anything. But she also couldn't let her family think she was dead. "I need to send a message," she said to Tony. "Just to let my family know I'm okay. Nothing specific, no location." Tony frowned. "Dom said no contact." "I know. But my sister, she'll call the police if I don't answer. She'll file a missing persons report. And then my face will be all over the news, and the Marchettis will know exactly what I look like." Vera met his eyes. "One message." "That's all," Tony considered. Then he pulled out his own phone. "Use mine. Type what you want to say, I'll send it and then delete the message, but keep it vague." Vera took the phone with shaking hands. She typed, "I'm safe. Can't explain right now. Trust me. Will contact you when I can. Love you." Tony hit send, then showed her the deletion. "If Dom finds out I didn't help you." "Thank you." He nodded, but she could see the worry in his eyes. They both knew they'd just taken a risk, just added another variable to an already unstable equation. Dominic returned at midnight. There was blood on his knuckles, and his shirt was torn. He looked at Vera, and she saw the answer in his face before he said it. It was Carlo. He confirmed everything. The Marchettis offered him $500,000 to give up your location. Dominic went to the sink, washed his hands mechanically. "He's not a problem anymore." "Did you?" Vera couldn't finish the sentence. "No, I turned him over to the people he betrayed, let them decide his fate." He dried his hands. "But there's a problem. Carlo said the Marchettis have someone on the FBI task force too. Someone feeding them information about the case, about witnesses, about everything." Agent Chen. It had to be her, didn't it? She was the only one who knew all the details, who had access to everything. But Dominic shook his head. "Not Chen. I've had people looking into her for months. She's clean. It's someone higher up. Someone with enough clearance to know which safe houses are active, which witnesses are cooperating." "So what do? We find them before they find you again." He looked at her, and his eyes were hard. "And we make sure they can't hurt anyone else." The next morning, Sofia showed up unannounced. Vera heard her before she saw her, heels on the hardwood, sharp and angry. She came into the kitchen where Vera was drinking coffee and stopped dead. "You're still here." Sofia's voice was flat. "Where else would I be?" "Dead. Or in FBI custody. or anywhere that wasn't making my brother lose his mind. Sofia dropped her designer bag on the counter. Do you have any idea what the last 2 days have been like? 3 of our restaurants got raided by health inspectors. 4 of our construction sites are under investigation for zoning violations. The police are suddenly very interested in our waste management contracts. This is the blowback, Vera. This is what happens when you drag us into your mess. I didn't drag anyone. You witnessed a murder and talked to the cops. That's dragging us in. Sofia leaned against the counter, arms crossed. My family has spent decades building a reputation. We're not gangsters. We're legitimate business people who happen to operate in gray areas. And in 1 week, you've undone all of that. Vera set down her coffee. Your brother lost someone he loved because of the Marchettis. Don't I get to want justice for the kid I watched die? Justice, Sofia laughed bitterly. There's no such thing as justice. There's power and there's survival, and right now you're threatening both. Then why doesn't Dominic just hand me over to the FBI? The question hung in the air. Sofia stared at her, and something shifted in her expression. Because my brother is an idiot who thinks he can save everyone. Because he sees you and sees another chance to be the hero he couldn't be for Marco. And because he's so hell-bent on destroying the Marchettis that he's willing to sacrifice everything we have. He loved Marco. We all loved Marco. Sofia's voice cracked. But Marco's dead, and wallowing in revenge won't bring him back. All it does is put targets on the rest of us. Dominic appeared in the doorway. That's enough, Sofia. No, it's not enough, not even close. Sofia turned to him. The FBI called me this morning. They want to interview me about the penthouse incident. They want to know why Marchetti soldiers ended up dead in your apartment. And I don't have a good answer, Dom, because you won't let me tell them the truth. The truth will only complicate things. The truth is we're harboring a witness. The truth is you've been building a case against the Marchettis on your own. The truth is you've compromised our entire operation for the sake of your guilt. Sofia grabbed her bag. I'm done. I'm going to cooperate with the FBI, tell them everything, and hope they see that I at least tried to run things legitimately. You do that, and they'll arrest you for obstruction. Better than waiting for the Marchettis to kill me because my brother decided to play hero. She left. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. Vera looked at Dominic, saw the pain in his eyes. She's scared, Vera said softly. She should be, they all should be. Dominic ran a hand through his hair. I'm dragging everyone down with me, and I can't seem to stop. Then maybe you should. Maybe you should hand me over to the FBI and walk away. He looked at her like she'd suggested he cut off his own hand. I'm not abandoning you. Why not? You barely know me. I'm just some paralegal who got unlucky. You're a woman who tried to save a stranger's life while everyone else walked past. You're someone who's willing to testify even though it could get you killed. He stopped, something shifting in his face. You remind me of the person I used to be before Marco died, before I became this. The honesty in his voice made her throat tight. What were you before? Someone who believed in the system, in justice, in doing things the right way. He smiled sadly. Marco and I were going to go legitimate together, build something clean. Then the Marchettis took that away, and I've spent 4 years trying to make them pay. But Sofia's right. I'm dragging everyone down with me. Vera crossed the room, stood in front of him. Then let me carry some of the weight. Let me be the one who testifies, who puts them away. You've given me a chance to do the right thing. Let me take it. He looked at her for a long moment, his dark eyes searching hers. Then so quietly she almost didn't hear it. I don't want you to get hurt. I'm already hurt. We both are. She touched his arm, felt the tension coiled beneath his skin. But maybe we can hurt them worse. Something changed in that moment. Some invisible line crossed. Dominic's hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. You're not afraid of me. I should be. But I'm not. Vera, whatever he was going to say was interrupted by Tony bursting through the door, gun drawn. We've got company, he said. 3 cars circling the block, definitely Marchetti guys. The moment shattered. Dominic's expression went cold and professional. Back door. Now! They moved fast, grabbing only what they could carry. Vera's heart hammered as they slipped out through the kitchen, into the narrow alley behind the brownstone. A black SUV idled there, engine running. Dominic pushed her toward it. Get in! Tony, you drive, I'll cover. Gunshots cracked behind them. Vera dove into the SUV, heard Dominic return fire. The sound was deafening in the enclosed alley. Tony gunned the engine, and they peeled out onto the street. In the rearview mirror, Vera saw Dominic running behind them. Two men in dark suits chased him, guns raised. He fired twice over his shoulder, and one of them went down. Then he was diving through the SUV's open door, and Tony was accelerating hard, weaving through traffic. "Where to?" Tony shouted. "The warehouse." "Red Hook." Dominic slammed the door shut, breathing hard. "We need to regroup." They drove for 20 minutes, taking random turns, doubling back, making sure no one followed. By the time they reached the warehouse, a converted industrial space on the waterfront, Vera's hands were shaking so badly she could barely unbuckle her seatbelt. Dominic helped her out. "You okay?" She wanted to say yes, to be strong, but instead she just shook her head. "How did they find us again?" "I don't know, but we're going to figure it out." The warehouse was enormous, full of shipping containers and industrial equipment. Dominic led her to a small office in the back, furnished with just a desk, a couch, and a mini fridge. It smelled like motor oil and salt water. "We'll be safe here for a few hours," he said. "This location isn't in any database. Only Tony and I know about it." Vera sank onto the couch. She felt like she'd been running for days. "They're never going to stop, are they? Even if I testify, even if Marchetti goes to prison, his people will keep coming." Dominic sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. "I won't let them hurt you. You keep saying that, but what if you can't stop them? What if—" He turned to face her, and the intensity in his eyes stole her breath. "I will stop them, whatever it takes, even if it means burning down everything I've built." "Dominic!" He kissed her. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was desperate and fierce, tasting of coffee and adrenaline and something darker. Vera's mind screamed that this was a terrible idea, that she was falling for a man who killed people in his apartment and carried a gun everywhere and lived in a world she barely understood. But her body didn't care. Her body responded to the warmth of him, the strength in his hands as they cupped her face, the way he kissed her like she was the only solid thing in a collapsing world. She kissed him back, fisting her hands in his shirt, pulling him closer. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. "That was," Vera started. "A mistake," Dominic finished, but he didn't look like he believed it. "Probably, definitely." He rested his forehead against hers. "But I've been wanting to do that since the moment you threw that picture frame at Carlo's head." Despite everything, Vera laughed. "That's what did it for you, my pathetic self-defense skills. Your bravery. Your refusal to go down without a fight." He pulled back, his expression serious. "I've spent 4 years surrounded by people who do what I say because they're afraid of me or because I pay them. You're not afraid, and you're definitely not here for the money. You're here because you want to do the right thing, consequences be damned. That's—" He stopped, searching for words. "That's rare." Vera touched his face, traced the scar along his temple. "What happened here? Knife fight when I was 19. Rival family thought they could take over our territory." He caught her hand, held it against his cheek. "I was young and stupid and thought I was invincible. And now I know I'm not. But I also know some things are worth dying for." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Before Vera could respond, Tony knocked on the door frame. "Boss, we've got a problem. Chen's on the phone. She says she's found the leak." Dominic stood immediately, all business again. Vera felt the loss of his warmth like a physical ache. She followed him to the main warehouse floor, where Tony had a laptop set up on a shipping crate. Agent Chen's face filled the screen. She looked haggard, her eyes rimmed with red. "It's Assistant Director Morrison," she said without preamble. "He's been feeding the Marchettis information for 2 years. Bank records show deposits totaling over $1 million. I found the paper trail an hour ago." Dominic's jaw clenched. "Where is he now?" "In custody. FBI is handling it internally, but—" She hesitated. "He gave them everything, Andretti. Safe house locations, witness identities, case strategy, everything. The Marchettis know exactly where Miss Castellano has been, and they know she's scheduled to testify next week. Then we move up the timetable." "We can't. The judge won't allow it. We need time to prepare to secure the courthouse to brief security. Chen leaned closer to the camera. You need to get her somewhere they can't find her, somewhere off the grid entirely. I'm working on it.